good evening, and welcome to Tea Time.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tea Time. I'm so glad you're joining me tonight. It is Monday, March 24th, first Monday of spring. Spring has sprung, that's what they're telling me, but it's freaking cold outside here in New York. I don't know how it is by you, but it's cold. I'm going to talk about my weekend real quick and get to my in-studio guest. Friday I went to Queens, hung out a little bit, chilled, went to my old stomping grounds, Fillmore's for dinner, had a lovely evening. Saturday night, I got a big bowl of popcorn and I watched 3 documentaries. I think it has something to do with my guest next to me. And I'm going to tell you what they were. I'm going to tell you when we talk about them, and then I'll surprise you. And then Sunday's laundry day. We only clean underwear, so I did laundry. And then I went to my sister's house, actually, for breakfast. Met my daughter there and my son-in-law, and we had breakfast together in Dix Hills. It was lovely. That was my weekend. I'm going to also shout out Murdered by the Mob. There I am as Bunny, longest running murder mystery show in Manhattan. And go to murderedbythemob.com to see when our shows will be coming up for the month of April. Hope to see you there. Okay, so I'm excited that this gentleman took the ride from Jersey, okay, because I know it's not fun this time of night, but I told him he's going to fly home. He's a director, he's a writer, he's a producer, he's also an actor, and I'm so thrilled to have him in studio. Seth Ferranti is here. Hi, Seth, how are you?
Hey, what's up? I'm doing all right.
You made it to Long Island.
Yeah, I did. I made it out here. It was a drive, but we made it.
I know. You'll fly home, I told you. All right, so listen, you have had an incredible story, an incredible journey, and we became friends on Facebook, and I've been, following you and what you've been doing, and I'm like, I have to get you on my show. You're originally from, is it Lemoore, California?
Yeah, Lemoore, California.
Lemoore, California.
Yeah. It's out in the desert, kind of, a little northeast, of LA.
Yeah. And you grew up a military kid?
Yeah. I'm basically Navy brat. My dad was a fighter pilot. We were stationed a lot. He used to fly off aircraft carriers, stuff like that.
Wow. Yeah, my dad was in the Navy also, but he was on a USS Conway. He didn't see any action, but he was there. I don't know what year. And so you traveled a lot as a kid?
Yeah, we'd move. We'd get stationed like every 2 or 3 years. We'd get stationed. So we always went back to San Diego because they had big Navy presence there, and my parents owned a house. But I lived overseas. I lived in Germany for a couple of years. I lived in England for 3 years. So really, by the time I was like a teenager, I'd lived like 5 or 6 years overseas, stationed.
Yeah. So when you were in the States, let's talk about when you were here, because you were 13 years old when you started dabbling in drugs?
Yeah, cannabis. I started experimenting like
pot.
cannabis.
Like who doesn't smoke pot as a freaking teenager? You know what I mean? It's like, I have to tell you, I tried it once and it did nothing for me. I'd rather have a glass of wine. But maybe I didn't do it right. I don't know. But everyone experiments. Most people experiment. Did you, was it friends? Usually it's your peers.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking like 1984, so it's a completely different world. You know, and I was into music, you know, going to concerts, you know, hanging out. I was into like skateboarding, you know, going to the beach, you know, typical California
Yeah.
kid stuff. So, and that was really part of the culture, you know, or part of the culture, not like it was mainstream. But, you know, back then they used to call it the counterculture. So it's weird how things go, you know, fast forward to 2025 and now cannabis is kind of mainstream.
Yeah, it is. It's you know, it's legal in a lot of states, and there's stores. There's, you know, now you could just go purchase something.
It's like
and-
alcohol.
Yeah, exactly,
Basically, yeah.
exactly. But you took the partaking in pot, marijuana, whatever you want to, you know, drugs, to a new level when you started dealing.
Yeah.
And I know I have a cousin who did the opposite. He started dealing and then he started using, and it was like an opposite journey for him. But tell me your journey and how that happened, because you were like, I don't know, 15. You were a young kid, and then eventually you kind of like grew this business, if not for a better word, by distributing not only marijuana, but you got into the LSD at 15 East Coast colleges in 5 states, including Virginia, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Maryland. So, like, you became like a mogul. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah,
And was it easy back then to do compared to like today?
I don't think it was easy because it was more outlaw, you know, it was more black market, you know, even some people would say criminal. I would never say criminal because I always told people, right, I didn't carry a gun, I didn't like beat people up, I didn't force people to do anything, right? So I never considered myself a criminal, I considered myself an outlaw. I broke laws that I thought were wrong.
Right.
And ever since when I first started getting into that counterculture, you know, marijuana, LSD, psychedelics, I always believed like this stuff. It's therapeutical.
Yes.
You know, it's medicinal and,
yes.
and it's spiritual. And you know, everybody does their own kind of thing. But you know, if this is something that can help you, you know, it should be able to be prescribed. You know, doctors should be able to look at people, because if you think about something like cannabis, until recent, like the last 100 years, like cannabis was used all over the world, you know, as like the healers, you know, the shaman, you know, tribal people. It was prescribed for like 60 different things.
Yeah.
And then when
Yeah.
they created, you know, the pharmaceutical industry, I'd say probably like early 1900s, 1920s, you know, around Prohibition or something, they kind of said, oh, well, let's ban cannabis, let's make, you know, cannabis illegal, and we can make a pill for each one of these 60 things, 60 ailments, so we can
Wow.
make money.
Yeah. I mean, because I know people have used it for cancer. They're going through cancer treatments and they're nauseous.
Yeah, Rick Simpson oil, FICO.
Yeah. And then
It can even shrink tumors.
yeah, and then a friend of mine was using, she's 88 years old and using gummies for pains, like little legit pains in her knees, and she's, you know, now she walks a little better.
It's better than like Motrin or Aleve or stuff like that. I mean, you take that, it's something natural. Of course, you take it in low doses. You're not trying to get out of your mind, but it fights inflammation. I just think it needs more studies, you know, I mean, because a lot of people can say this or say that, but if they like really studied it and found out what it's good for, you know, and backed up by science, you know.
Absolutely. And you well, to jump around a little bit, because you did, well, we're going to jump around because, you know, you're talking about psychedelics and stuff, and in 2023, which is pick H, please. Sorry, Carmine. But we're going to, you know, we're jumping around. You did Psychedelic Revolution, and I have to say, this was the secret history of the LSD trade. Thank you, Carmine. And I have to tell you that that was one of the movies I watched on Saturday night. I watched White Boy, which we're going to talk about. I watched Psychedelic Revolution, and I ended up watching Dope Men. And I have to say, when I watched Psychedelic Revolution, yeah, I'm learning things I never knew. And I think you're an incredible filmmaker, because first of all, I want to know where you get your ideas from to make these docs, especially this one.
Yeah, well, I was in prison for LSD. I got like 25 years for LSD when I was only 22 years old for a first-time non-violent offense. So I was, thrown in prison. I was extremely angry, at the sentence. So I start thinking like a lot of psychedelics, like people don't really know the history. Like I knew the history.
Yeah.
And I came at it from, the counterculture, but also like the Grateful Dead angle.
Yes.
I was kind of on the periphery of that. I was more a drug dealer than a deadhead in that scene.
Right.
But that was kind of the scene I gravitated to, and to this day I still have a lot of friends. But yeah, definitely when I was in prison, because there was a lot of us in there for LSD. Not overwhelming, but it'd be 2, 3, 4, or 5 of us on every compound, and we would trade all these stories, about the legends, the chemists, all different stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I was like, this is like the the underground history that a lot of people will never know.
Right.
And because in hip hop, you kind of got like, the hip hop, the rappers, they talk about kind of glorify all the drug lords and stuff like that. But, maybe that some of the 70s rock did to a certain extent. There's a couple songs, but a lot of that stuff was really never explored in popular culture. So I had all this access, and I knew all these different legends and underground stuff, and that's how I got the idea. Wow. I'm like, I want to do like the secret history of the LSD trade. Because LSD, at one time, LSD was legal. Up until 1966.
Yeah, I was going to say it was legal because they used it for psychoanalysis. They used it in when you would go to a therapist, they would give it to you and try to,
And the founder of Alcohol Anonymous, Bill Wilson, he said that LSD cured him.
Really?
Yeah, and he was a big proponent of LSD. But it came a time, especially like I guess like Summer of Love and all the hippie revolution or whatever you want to call it. The government started putting out propaganda out there to kind of give LSD a bad name. Like people, from our generation, like you grow up and like you think LSD, like somebody's jumping out the windows, they're seeing pink elephants.
But that's not what it was.
That was the propaganda that was put out like by the CEA, the government, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really, it's. I think it goes cannabis and LSD. It's kind of like stuff the government can't really control to a certain extent. So that's kind of why they pushed it to the side.
Right.
And they were like, well, this stuff's illegal. Because why are some stuff like why is sugar a legal substance but THC is not a legal substance? Why is nicotine legal?
Exactly.
It's just weird because you look at these substances, and I've always been the type of dude like. I mean, cannabis is not any more harmful than like a nicotine, a caffeine or a sugar.
Right.
Really, alcohol can be potentially more damaging, than cannabis. I mean, obviously, something like LSD. LSD is a very, very strong drug.
That's the whole thing too. Is I think taking it under medical supervision. Like there were doctors that were using it in their psychoanalysis and stuff, and taking it supervised is one thing. Taking it unsupervised and I guess abusing it is another thing.
Well, I mean, me personally, I like to take 5 or 10 hits of acid and like go to a rock concert. I mean, that's what I like to do. But that's not for everybody. Some people like to do it, out in the woods, camping, hiking in the mountains.
Well, they showed in the movie how they would, do it amongst a ton of people, where they were saying how some of them thought it was more as an intimate, as an intimate
It could be communal, stuff like that.
And then they had April 19th is Bicycle Day, right?
Yeah.
And I learned about that because I thought that was pretty cool. And then let's put up pick I please. Thank you, because that is a panel forum that you had.
Yeah. So we did that at the Midway in San Francisco. So we actually did the first 2 Bicycle Day Fests they had at the Midway. They'd always done like concerts, but then we kind of introduced like the outlaw stuff, the film stuff, and now they're still doing it. This is the first one. Like, so I got like Hamilton Morris, from Vice, because he's in Psychedelic Revolution.
Yeah.
Carolyn Mountain Girl Garcia. She's right next to Hamilton.
Right.
And that was Jerry Garcia's wife.
Yes.
And Widow.
Yeah.
And then, Tim Tyler, who had a life sentence for LSD for the 3 strikes law, and he got a pardon from Obama and got out after 26 years. He's actually co-producer on the film. Ronnie Stanley, that was Bear Owsley Stanley. He was a Grateful Dead sound man, but he was also like the biggest chemist back then.
Right, he was an underground again. They will do underground. He found out how to make it. He wanted to learn how to make it.
There's a song. There's a song that not a lot of people know. They glorify.
Thank you, Carmine.
But it's the Steely Dan song, Kid Charlemagne.
Oh.
That's about Bear Owsley Stanley.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people
Wow.
don't
And
know
then
that.
pick Jay. We could just go to Jay real quick too. Thank you. And that's you on set actually interviewing. So I want to know how you find them. How do you find these people to thank you, Carmine. How do you find them to interview? How do you find the sound guy from the Grateful Dead? How do you find these people?
Yeah, well, it's all. I mean, once you have an idea for a doc, you know, you kind of make for a documentary, you kind of make like a potential interview list.
Okay.
And like I can give you an example for White Boy. Like White Boy, we got almost everybody we wanted. We were trying to get Tim Allen, you know, because Tim Allen, he had got busted for that 650 lifer law.
Yes.
And that's the same thing that White Boy Rick, the 650 lifer law, got life. So, you know, but he didn't want to do it, you know, for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
But I think it's because, you know, he was an informant on that case. So, you know, not a lot of people knew that. So, but whatever. But, you know, you got to know who you have access to. Luckily, you know, because of the time I served in prison and, you know, just the world I'm from, I just got a lot of access to like the cannabis, psychedelic, and even like I was locked up with like a ton of mafia guys. So, you know, like even the mafia stuff. So it's kind of like, you know, who you got to have access. And I have a little bit more credibility because, you know, I'm seen as an outlaw and I was locked up for 21 years. So I can go to dudes that normally maybe they won't even be interviewed.
For a first offense, non-violent is insane.
Yeah.
It's totally crazy. You know what's crazy? I got to take my first break. So stay right there. More with Seth after this when we come back.
Well, hi there, Theresa. It's John York from General Hospital. I am just checking in because apparently you have a great talk show called Tea Time on Strong Island TV. I want you to have continued great success and have a lot of fun. It sounds like you're having a lot of fun, and that's pretty much the key to everything, isn't it? So continued success. I'm proud of you. Have a great day, Theresa. Bye.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Tea Time. I'm with Seth Ferranti, and he is a writer, he's a director, he's a producer, he's also an actor, and he has an incredible story of how, when he was young, you know, he was playing around with marijuana and LSD, and then he ended up starting to distribute. And you were like on like the freaking top 15 most wanted list, right? You like
for some reason
they wanted you. They wanted you bad.
I don't even know why.
We have pick A if we want to throw that up. That's on the website. It's not like I'm grabbing anything here, but you know. And then the next pick, I want to show that one too because he parlayed. I'm sorry, C. In prison, you decided I'm gonna write. And while you in prison, thank you. You not only wrote, but you also received you earned your associate's, your bachelor's, and your master's degree while you were there. So kudos to you, my friend, because you know that's a huge.
Well, prison is boring.
Well, yeah, I mean you got to find
It's
something
like totally
to do.
boring. I mean, you know, besides people getting stabbed, you know, every now and then, you know, once or twice a month, it's just boring. You know, nothing's going on. It's a lot of monotony.
And they didn't like that you were writing. They would put you in solitary confinement.
Yeah, they didn't like it.
They didn't like your writing.
Even sometimes, I would never write about anything that was like going on in the prison, like right then.
Right.
You know, first off, because, you know, if I blow up somebody's hustle, they're probably going to come stab me. But also because, you know, I could get in trouble with the administration. But sometimes I would write about stuff that happened like 3 or 4 years ago. But then they would read it and they would think it was happening there. And then they would like lock me up or, you know, try to say I'm involved in this or I'm involved in that.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes you know, everything in prison is about a security issue. They make because if it's about security, they can basically do whatever they want. Right.
And then B, pick B. Now this is all the books. B, all the books. These are all the books that you've written, and there are many. So which one was your very, very, very first book?
Prison Stories.
Prison Stories. Okay. But you also did Thug Life, The Supreme Team, The Dope Game Misadventures.
Yeah, I got about 25 books now.
25?
Yeah, I got about 25.
Well, I don't have 25 here, my friend, but...
yeah, on Amazon.
It's amazing, yeah. So
and most of them, a lot of them are Audible now, too. So
you can
are? Yeah, you can listen to them.
Oh, that's great, because a friend of mine loves Audible. That's like
All gangster, prison stuff,
Yeah,
drug lords,
yeah.
Thug life type of stuff.
Wow, wow. Well, you let's say pick C. I think it's not C. I'm sorry. Which one is it? Gorilla. Oh, D. Thank you. So your website, his website is gorillaconvict.com. That's where you can find all the information, all the books. I mean, that's like the main hub of where everything is. And why Gorilla Convict? And you actually started your own production company. Tell them the name of that.
Outlaw Films. Yeah, so I started Gorilla Convict when I was in prison, like 2005. So I started writing probably like around 1999 for publication. I came in 93, so like 6 years. I was taking college courses and stuff, improving my writing ability. And then I started writing for like Vice and Don Diva Feds, a bunch of other publications. And then eventually, like 2005, I formed my own publishing house from inside, and I started putting out my own books. Wow. And I put out like 8 books while I was in prison.
Amazing. So tell everyone, what is Death Before Dishonor code? What is that?
I mean, Death Before Dishonor code is like, you'd rather die than like dishonor yourself or dishonor your reputation. And mostly it comes down to like not being a informant, not snitching, or not ratting on people that your crime partners. But also, it can be even taken any further, like, because a lot of dudes, like, you respect women, you don't bring, murder or crime, to someone's house, to civilians' houses. You don't beat women. It's like this is all, so death before dishonor. If you're going to dishonor yourself and do some junky stuff or do any type of stuff like that, a man of honor is going to want to be dead before he lets his name be dishonored, or he does something to dishonor his legacy or his memory or his family.
Yeah, got it. Makes sense to me, especially me being, I'm 100% Sicilian, so I get I know the message. You did a film called Dog Days in the Heartland. What year was that? Because that had to be...
Oh, that was when I first got out, so that was probably like 2015, 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, when I first got out, I tried a little acting.
You did. You actually, well, you also did Jesus Christ Junkie, but you did Pick N, Please. Pick N. You did Precious and the Damned, which was a short that you actually wrote and starred in.
Yeah. So I was thinking about, because...
Thank you.
We talked before, Ciro DiPaggio, the
shout out to Ciro DiPaggio,
filmmaker and actor.
Mob Kings and Silent Partners. Yeah.
And we both got out around the same time, and he was doing his acting thing, and he was always telling me like, you should act. So I tried a little, but after trying a couple times, I was like, I really like to be
You're more
behind the
comfortable
camera.
behind the camera.
Yeah. Acting was cool. Maybe I could have went that way, but I don't know, just like all the. Because it's storytelling angle. You get more as a writer director. Behind the camera, you control the story more.
Absolutely.
Whereas an actor, you just kind of control your character.
Yeah. And then so let's talk 2017 White Boy, and that is Pick E, Please. Yep, White Boy. Now, I saw this. I did see it a while ago, but I did rewatch it. Thank you. I did rewatch it on Saturday night. And I have to say, it is, if you did not see the documentary, watch the documentary. It is such a messed up story, putting it mildly. It's about this young kid who's 15 years old, Rick Wershey, and how the FBI actually wanted him as an informant.
Yeah, basically, they pimped him out.
Yeah, and then basically, like, eat him up, spit him out, threw him out, like, just disregarded him, and someone had a thing for him and wanted to keep him behind bars for many, many, many years. And here was a kid who was also nonviolent and was running with people who were into it more.
He was running with gangsters.
But he was never at their level. Okay? And basically, there was a lot of corruption in Detroit. And he got out, but then he had to go to Florida for like another 5 years.
No, he never got out of that Michigan sentence. He went right to Florida from that.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he did almost, I think he did like 32 years
Yeah,
or something
insane.
straight. Yeah, because he went in like 1988.
Insane, totally insane. And
got a life sentence at 17.
Yeah.
Which the Supreme Court said was illegal in
correct.
2012.
Yes.
You know, so that helped him get out. But we actually made that movie to get him out. I'd been writing about Rick since I was in prison.
Yeah.
I did like some Vice articles and a couple other articles that went viral. But
And you think with all that publicity, it would have really bended on someone's ear and let him out.
it took a long time, though. I mean, really, it took the pressure of like the big Hollywood movie with
Yes.
Matthew McConaughey, White Boy
Yes.
Rick, and our film, and a whole bunch of activists and a whole bunch of lawyers. It was, it was like 5 or 6 different things that were going on that finally, forced the, like the prosecutors in I think it's Wayne County.
Yeah, it's insane.
Not object to anything, because before that they had a vendetta against this kid.
Yeah, they did. 2017 is when the doc came out, and actually 2017 is when the movie came out. And Matthew McConaughey plays Rick's dad, senior, and again, an incredible story that just leaves you, with your mouth on the floor, because you're like, I don't get it. It's like you really want to understand it. You did, after that, you did Easter Bunny, and then this was kind of like a.
Oh yeah, Easter Bunny Assassin.
Easter Bunny Assassin.
I actually did that when I first. That was just like some YouTube shorts. I kind of did right when I first got out. That was actually probably like 2015.
But then you went into Easter Bunny Tooth Fairy Mafia. Then you went into Santa Claus Crack Dealer.
Yeah. So I had this
2.
idea. I had this idea to kind of, take like holiday type figures.
Right.
And juxtapose them, with like criminal figures. Yes. And it was kind of like, maybe farcical, kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And then I did it. I just found some people. Like when I first got out, I went to like these, like meetups, like the film meetups. Like you just find the app. And that's how I met people, and I started helping people on that Dog Days.
Yes.
And then I found some people that were interested, and then they helped me on like the Easter Bunny Assassin series. So, that just kind of shows how stuff grows, because people always think like getting into film is so hard. But a lot of times, man, you go to these meetups. Yeah, if you want to write, star, and direct your own thing, yeah, that might be harder.
Yeah.
But, if you want to go and work and you go help people on theirs, and they'll come and help you on yours.
That's the community you would hope to build. Is that, if you know someone or something, that you try to pass it along to someone, and then they do the same for you, and that keeps everyone working, keeps everyone going, You did. Let's see. Let's go to Tangled. That's pick G, please. Tangled Roots, which was actually a TV miniseries.
Well, it's not out yet, so it's still we're almost got the first one ready. I've been working on this. We started filming this, I think, like right at the end of the pandemic. So I've been working on this for a while.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a 4-part
series
on like Humboldt County, the Emerald Triangle, like the area that has historically produced, like 60 to 75% of the domestic, gross product of cannabis in this country, really since the 70s. Probably now with, legality in all the different states, it's a little different, but there's still a ton of weed grown, in Northern California.
Yeah.
So the first episode's almost ready. Hopefully.
Oh, good.
Yeah, hopefully it's going to be out like in about 2 months, I'm hoping.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're picture locking right now. Then we got to do sound, color,
all right,
deliverables, and then that'll be like up on Amazon
now,
first.
Now, do you use the same
Tubi.
team for all your projects?
No, I got like a studio, so I got like in-house.
Right.
I got like
but you use
in-house
like the same
editors.
editor, the same.
I got like 3 editors.
That's good.
Yeah, I run my stuff through 3 editors. One guy does like assembly cuts. Then one guy helps me like do the black screens and start gathering assets and determine, and does the music. And then I got one guy he polishes. He's like the finisher and makes everything,
now,
look super high production value.
I have to know, who finds all the footage?
Yeah, I do, but my editors, me and my editors.
Because let me tell you something, incredible. Kudos, really incredible that you find all that footage, especially on Psychedelic Revolution. I mean, I was floored.
Yeah, well, you always starting when we gathering this type of archival footage, we always start on YouTube. But then from YouTube, they have like some big like news banks, you know, like Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And there's these other ones. So like when you get into the business, you kind of learn where you can get this archival footage. And some you have to pay for, some you don't. You know, I always try to. I'm never going to use more than 6 seconds because it's kind of like it's kind of like
You
rap
can get away
music,
with
how
it.
they can sample
Yes.
a song.
Yeah.
So if you use like under 6 seconds and it's not like your main theme or your supporting
Correct.
theme, then it's fair use. So
Yeah.
you know, I really in this business, you know, we're not doing like big budget like Hollywood, you know, Netflix stuff. We make it look like Netflix stuff, but we're not spending the amount of money.
No, it's incredible.
Yeah, so I can afford all the licensing fees anyhow. So I just clip stuff.
That's awesome. All right, so let's talk about, let's take my next break, because when we come back, we're going to talk about Dope Men, America's first drug cartel. And this was good. I watched this Saturday night, too. We'll be back after this.
How you doing? It's Sal the Voice Valentinetti. Why are you watching me? You should be watching Theresa Farrell Tea Time with Theresa Farrell. And make sure you follow Theresa on Facebook. Tea Time with Theresa Farrell. We'll see you there.
I love the way you say my name. I love
This big guy, yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Tea Time. I'm so glad you're joining me tonight. Seth Ferranti is with me. He's a writer, he's a producer, he's a director, touched upon acting a little bit, but we found out he'd rather be behind the camera instead of in front of it. And I tell you, I think that's where you shine. I really do. I really do. So we were talking about all these docs that he made, and Saturday night I watched White Boy. I watched Psychedelic Revolution, thank you. And I watched Dope Men, America's First Drug Cartel. That was volume 1, and that's Pick K. Thank you. Carmine is on it. Carmine's the best. And I have to tell you, I enjoyed this immensely. I really did. I guess, listen, being 100% Sicilian and, you know, thank you, Carmine. You know, growing up, we weren't allowed to talk about the mafia, just weren't. But I had some relatives that would go away for a while and disappear from the family. And I'd be like, Ma, where did, you know, cousin so-and-so go? And she's like, I had to go to Wade for work. And I was like, oh. And then it'd come back all of a sudden, you know. We didn't talk about it, but now I'm an adult and I find out things. And this was incredible. How long did it take you to do this one? Because it just seems so detailed and intense.
It probably took almost 5 years. Because I actually started working.
Was that the longest?
Yeah, Nightlife took about that long too. So I started working on those while I was working on White Boy. So, you know, White Boy, it was somebody else's project. I just wrote and produced it. Like I took the project to him and he had funding and everything. So I started Dope Men and Nightlife with basically no money, no funding. So, you know, it was like serious, you know, like guerrilla style, you know, just like getting people to help me, you know, getting the cameras, borrowing people's cameras, stuff like that. So yeah, it was about 5 years, but we started crafting it. We probably shot for about off and on for 2 years, and then we edited.
The
for
editing,
about 3 years.
The editing, the magic is in the editing. I mean, that's how I feel about it. But it's amazing how, again, the drugs originate, and because it's history. How it originated, the poppy, right? Was something that was found in Italy, but the opium originated, in 1875 from China. Okay, so now I'm getting a history lesson. You know, it's like you're learning a lot through these docs that you really have no idea until you like watch them. So I want to, I guess, tell everyone, please. Saturday night, I got a bowl of popcorn. Again, I watched White Boy, Psychedelic Revolution, Dope Men. And you could find them on Tubi or Amazon. Just look it up, watch them. Seth's documentaries, and I've watched many documentaries, they're like none other I've ever seen. They're so raw, so detailed. I mean, they're incredible. They really, really are.
I think what I bring to it, because I'm not
it's
telling,
a different type of
I'm not
flavor.
telling news stories. It's not like I'm like some breaking news type of stuff.
Right.
But it's my point of view.
Yes.
You know, because I was inside for over 2 decades. So
you missed 21 Thanksgivings, 21 holidays.
I look at things in different perspective than most people. You know, and call it whatever. outlaw perspective, or kind of like think about like the movie The Matrix. Like I was out of the Matrix for 21 years. Like I was those dudes that weren't plugged in.
Right.
So I've seen life from different angles. So that's kind of with my work, with my documentaries, with my writing. I try to show my angle, but also, the other people that were experiencing those lives in prison, or, these groups, be it the mafia or these gangs or these prison gangs or criminal organizations. I was with these dudes. I broke bread with these dudes. I talked to these dudes. I lived with these dudes in prison.
Right.
So I try to show their perspectives, because when you go to prison, man, you learn. I mean, there are real evil people, but it's real small, like the real evil psychopaths. I mean, it's like 2-3%.
Okay.
Just like the real, angelic good people, it's probably only 2. Everybody else is kind of in that gray area, It's not as much black and white as we're led to believe. And like we talked about honor, we talked about other things. A lot of these dudes, these big drug lords and mafia guys, whatever, I mean, a lot of them, they can be like real good people. I mean, but if you're a gangster...
There are a lot of really good people that do bad things.
I mean, if you're a gangster, you got to do gangster stuff.
Of course.
You can have a heart of gold and be a real good person, but
yes.
If someone encroaches on your territory or affects your money or your family, I mean, you got to do gangster stuff. That's what gangsters do. That's like, what they say, everybody's a tough guy until a real gangster walks in the room.
Well, that's the whole thing. You had mentioned that about how it's a person's perspective. And unfortunately, how they judge, But you're right. You're totally right.
Because I was in prison with all types of dudes, and you could just tell, like, some of these dudes, they just, I was never around somebody like John Gotti. I knew people that was around John Gotti, but it's like some of these big, criminals, mafia guys, gang leaders, whatever. I mean, they just got this aura about them. It's like they're a celebrity because in that underworld, in that criminal lifestyle, in that outlaw, landscape, these guys, they are the celebrities.
Yeah. I know. That's why Sopranos was so popular, and The Godfather.
Yeah, but Dopeman, it's a history lesson. It shows a lot of stuff.
It's a history lesson.
There's been this like 100-year war kind of between law enforcement and the mafia, over the drug trade and a lot of other stuff. And it's switched too, because, I don't think the mafia is involved as they were at one time. It's gone to different groups. Like probably the Chinese are running that stuff now.
Yeah, well,
or the Mexicans.
In the documentary, you talk about different gangs, and it wasn't just Italian; it was Irish, and it was you had Jewish gangs. You had everyone had their own.
Prohibition. Everybody was gangsters, and then. And everybody knows about the Lucky Luciano, and he did
Maya
the commission.
Lansky
I think. And I think Dopeman kind of implies this. We don't get into a lot because there's not a lot of real evidence, but there had to be a meeting sometime, like in the early 1930s, where, Lucky Luciano and like Meyer Lansky and even like some of the Irish gangsters, because look at history, right? So it must have been like they sat down and they said, okay, look, the Italians, we're going to keep the organized crime. Jewish, we want you guys to go into banking.
Right.
Irish, we want you guys to go into law enforcement and politics.
Right.
Because if you look at it, like 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, that's kind of how things went.
Right.
And then for like the mafia, stuff didn't really start falling apart for them, as an organization until probably like the 70s, because you think that's like 2-3 generations after what they started. So, maybe 2 generations, you could say, okay, you're going into the family business. But once you get like 3 generations, people are like, oh, well, we don't care what you guys started back, my grandpa started.
Back in the day,
and that was the deterioration, not only of the mob, but also their banking, like the Jewish and the banking, because maybe they figured they don't have to do anything with the mob anymore because it was so far. And like the politicians and the Irish in politics, it kind of all separated as the generations kind of went on.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating to me. You also did Nightlife, which you mentioned before. That's Pick L, please. Pick L, and that I did not see, but I'm going to watch it this weekend. That's on Tubi.
Yeah, so that's about this guy named the Reverend Kenneth McCoy, and he actually walks the streets of the most dangerous areas in St. Louis. They call it like the north side.
Wow.
But he does it at night, so he goes out there like 10 to 2.
Right.
And like they give out food, they have like Narcan, they try to get like, the drug addicts and you know, a treatment. They try to get, you know, homeless people in shelters.
Right.
But they're also just out there. Like, they give out food, they give out oranges, they give out, like, clothes, you know. Like, a lot of people, homeless people, like, they don't have socks, underwear, so they bring all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, you know, he's like a knight in shining armor, you know, going out there. You know, like, we were following with cameras.
Wow.
And it was crazy. You know, nobody knew, but I had one camera guy that was like a ex-military guy. And so, like, he was packing. He had like a 9 the whole time.
Yeah.
I had that for our safety. You know, nobody knew that but me and him.
Right.
And really, that was the only reason I had him, because, you know, he was a decent camera dude, but I had better camera guys. But I knew he was ex-military
he could
guy.
carry.
Yeah, he was ex-military too, dude. So I knew, you know, I was like, I want this dude with me.
Sometimes you have to take precautions
It was cheaper than hiring a real bodyguard.
Absolutely.
But that was crazy. That was a crazy shoot. We did that over 2 years. We gathered all that footage.
Really?
Yeah, gunshots. Like, we got threatened. Like, all types of stuff. Like, people say they're gonna steal our cameras. But the good thing is that Reverend, he had a lot of respect in the street.
Right.
And we would wear the nightlife vests that he had. You know, that he had already established. So, you know, we kind of got a pass to a certain extent.
Wow. Oh my gosh. You did Pick M, Please. A Tortured Mind, the reality of post-incarceration syndrome. And, you know, I talk about everyone has been through some form of, what's the word?
Stress.
PTSD. Yeah, we've all been through something that you don't have to only be in the military. Thank you, Carmine. You don't only have to be in the military or been in the military to have PTSD. I have it myself from stuff that I've been through in the past. And I think we all have some form of it, okay? Some of it could be mild, some could be some could be extreme. So tell me about this.
Yeah, so this is a guy I knew that, you know, he had problems, a rich Santa Barbara kid. And he had problems. He had drug addiction problems and maybe some mental illness problems that he was masking with, you know, drug addiction. And he got into drugs and he eventually went to prison. But then he was in the California system and the federal system. But the violence he was exposed to in these systems, you know, not even like it was against him, but just that he witnessed, you know, it kind of exacerbated, you know, that drug addiction and mental illness. So when he was released, you know, he had some periods of you know, lucidness, but, you know, sometimes he would just go off the rail. And, you know, had a very promising career as a writer. He had wrote some books and he had made some really good contacts in Hollywood, was living in LA. But, you know, then eventually he died, you know, because of drugs. So I'm trying to tell this story where I show, like, you know, we basically, like, when people get out of prison, we treat them like trash because we just send them out to the world. We don't give them any type of counseling, you know, any type of guidance, all, you know, just a probation officer or parole officer that says, you know, if you don't do everything you're supposed to go do, you're going to go back to prison. Right. So, you know, this dude, you know, on the surface, you know, he kind of could play the game and he looked okay, but, you know, deep down, you know, he was inside. He was suffering. And that's what it is. Post-incarceration syndrome is so many people have been locked up, like in the war on drugs in the 90s and the 2000s. So many people are coming out now and they're recognizing this as a new form of PTSD called PICS. Post-incarceration syndrome, because of the stuff you got to witness in there, you know, and just the degradation or brutality from the guards, being treated like less than human, you know, no respect, no privacy, you know, told like when to eat, when to sleep, when to go to the bathroom, when to use the shower, when you could exercise, just all this type of stuff. Because really, you know, when it comes down to it in this country, you know, we treat our animals, our pets, better than we treat people in prison. You know, and that's the sad reality of it. And you know, some people can cope better than others people. So some people. Well, not for nothing. I mean,
you had to have some kind of coping mechanism yourself, especially when, you know, they would put you in the hole for friggin' 30 days because you were writing.
My writing was my coping mechanism. My writing and sending out my writing to the world, getting recognition, getting attention. You know, that's always been my coping mechanism. Just like now, you know, with the films, you know, I put these stories out, and you know, as an artist or anybody in entertainment or the arts, you just want people to like respect or like stuff you do, and so, you know, when you get that type of recognition and acclaim, I don't know, maybe it's because I moved around so much as a kid, you know, I'm always looking, I'm always looking for that acceptance, I'm always looking for that recognition, I'm always looking for that acclaim. So that's why I do the stuff that I do, you know, besides, you know, wanting to craft the stories and tell them. I make stuff, I write stuff and I make stuff that I want to watch.
Right.
Because, you know, sometimes you can go like on Netflix and you can like look for something for a half an hour and you can't even find anything to watch.
It's so true. It's so true.
So I make stuff that, you know, I like to watch.
Yeah. No, I get it. I totally get it. And you know what we got to get? My last break. But stay right there, because when we come back, we're going to be talking about your latest, For the Love of God, after this.
Who's the best comedian you know?
Theresa Farrell.
And who's the best actress you know?
Theresa Farrell.
And who's the best cast member in Bad Boys?
Teresa Farrell.
Who's got the best radio?
Teresa Farrell.
Doc, who's your favorite Jimmy?
Teresa Farrell.
Who are you loving right now?
Teresa Farrell.
All right, Doc, I love you too, baby.
Love you as always.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Tea Time, people. I'm so glad you're joining me tonight. Please like the show. Please share it. Please tell your friends. We're live on Facebook and YouTube, and we're going to be on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch TV, Apple TV, everywhere podcasts can be heard and seen this Saturday at 11 a.m. on Channel 20 for people who live on beautiful Long Island and get Optimum TV. I'm with Seth Ferranti, and he's a writer and a producer and a director, dabbled in a little acting, but the man loves to be behind the camera, and I'm so happy he does, because his documentaries are amazing. And you can find him on Facebook and Instagram under Seth Ferranti. And if you go to GorillaConvict.com, which is his beautiful website, you can find everything there as far as his books and his documentaries and things that are coming up. Thank you for that, Carmine, for throwing that back up there. He's the best. Before we talk about For the Love of God, let's just put up real quick pick O, because it's you at Sundance. There you are. Where are you? You at Sundance, right? Film festival.
Yeah. So, you know, when I got out, I wanted to get in the film, so I started, you know, going to the local meetups.
Yeah.
But, you know, then eventually I wanted, you know, to experience like the bigger stuff, you know, so I went to Sundance probably like 4 years in a row.
Awesome.
You know, like from 2016 to 2020. And I met a lot of people there, and it was funny because I was going there, and, you know, I got my books, and I had done White Boy, you know, after probably the third and fourth time I went, and like I would meet a lot of the people.
Did you consult on the movie at all?
No, the White Boy Rick, no.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Some of the guys that worked on the White Boy Rick documentary that I did, they consulted. But yeah, Sundance was cool because, like, I'd go, and Sundance, it's a lot. Hollywood's really like
clicky?
Inclusive, yeah. So it's a lot of people, like their families, and you know, and then it's a lot of people that go to these colleges, like, you know, Columbia, you know, Harvard, Berkeley. So like when I was going to Sundance, and really I was going to ski too, because I love to ski, but I was meeting all these people, and I was giving them like my business card. It says like Gorilla Convict, and it has like a mafia dude with a mask with guns, and they were just like looking at me. They were like, dude, there's like no one like you like comes to things like this, you know. So they were really.
But that's what's good, because it makes you stand out, it makes you unique, and they remember you.
No, so I met a lot of people at Sundance. I did a lot of network, and I even went to Cannes. I went to Cannes one year.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah.
That must be lovely. And let's put P, because it's like you on set in your glory there. I love that pick. It's so cool. That's a great pick. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so listen, let's talk about For the Love of God, the Alan Gunnar Lindblom story.
Yeah.
And that's going to be pick S. We don't have a poster for it yet, but the last pick is actually a picture of Alan. And again, we have the trailer. So you know what? Why don't should we show the trailer first or talk about it first? What do you want to do?
Oh, we can show the trailer first.
All right, let's show the trailer. Thank you.
I grew up in total dysfunction. My mother was mentally ill, manic depressive. My father was an abusive drunk, alcoholic. They divorced when I was 5, and I ended up moving in with my grandparents, my grandma and Grandpa Toko. Now, I don't know this at the time, but my family was connected to the mafia.
What I observed about Gunnar as a boy, growing up in this old-fashioned code Sicilian clan, he is basically being groomed as an enforcer. Someone who can do favors for more powerful men.
When I started hanging out with Al, he already had the reputation of doing crazy things, being in shootouts and robbing pimps and stuff like that. And I kind of saw the buildup of he's starting to lose control.
So I go to the bank and I walk in. There's a security guy there. I nod, I'm dressed nice. How you doing, man? I walk over to the counter, I write a note. And the note says, I have a bomb that's remotely detonated. If you don't give me $75,000 in the next 90 seconds, the bank goes boom.
I've been in gunfights, I've been stabbed, I've been shot. I was never scared to die. It wasn't something I feared. But I did fear 30 years in prison in this environment.
17 and a half months of solitary will break any man. And I think that is when he had his encounter with himself.
This is not a tale about a gangster or a gangster story. This is a story about change, redemption, faith in the human spirit.
Awesome. That looks incredible.
Yeah, this is an incredible story.
How did you connect with Alan?
Yeah, Gunnar over Facebook. You know, he used to do a podcast, and he was like, you know, he's from Detroit, so like the whole white boy Rick thing. So he would have me on the podcast talking about white boy, and then like we had a mutual friend, Scott Bernstein, who also worked on the white boy. He's like a mafia writer, and he's done a lot of mafia stuff, and he was close to Gunnar. And so I would go to Detroit, see him, be on his podcast, hang out, and then he'd always told me he was trying to get a doc made about his life, and then he met this one producer, you know, who had the funding, and he brought the project to me, and we've been making it, you know, ever since. Probably we started shooting probably in like last July, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's going to be a quick turnaround for this project because, of course, we've had funding the whole time. So, you know, when you have funding.
That makes it much easier.
Yeah, so I'm looking to have that film ready, you know, at least, maybe not ready for release, but ready probably, you know, by the end of June. But definitely, it's an incredible story because.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this dude was like, I mean, he wasn't a mafia dude, but, you know, he was in the streets. He was an enforcer. He would probably take some work.
He was an enforcer.
Yeah, he would take some work for some mob dudes, but he wasn't a made guy by any means.
No.
You know, but he was just one of the guys kind of in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And, you know, he got into drugs. He got into addiction. You know, he got into some real violent stuff. I mean, he was a violent dude, especially when his addiction kind of spiraled. I mean, he was really like, you know, I mean, I like him. He's a nice guy, but back then, I mean, dude was a scumbag. He would you know, like sell people stuff and then rob it back from them, and just rip guys off.
Yeah.
And, you know, he did whatever he wanted because he was out of control, loose cannon. But, you know, he went to prison and, you know, he had that, you know, like we all have it. You know, his was just more religious than mine. Not we all have, but a lot of us.
Right.
You know, he started writing. You know, became a born again Christian and wrote some, you know, awesome books. You know, like mafia type crime.
Right.
And now he's out and he does like this whole conviction radio stuff. Does these podcasts.
I heard you say that ex-cons. A lot of ex-cons are in the entertainment industry now.
Yeah.
And do you think that there's a, I don't know, what's the word, intrigue? People are just intrigued by it?
I think it's like, I mean, all these other people, talented writers they may be, you know, with these like Columbia, Harvard, Berkeley, you know, Stanford educations, they've been writing these stories. And I'm not saying that these people are great writers, but now, you know.
But I think it's different when it comes from a person who's lived it.
Yeah, I mean, we're adding, you know, more authenticity.
Yes.
Because even if you think of like some of the great mob movies, like The Godfather, or even, you know, like Goodfellas.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They had some type of inside connection, even though the filmmakers weren't.
Yeah.
You know, I guess Francis Ford Coppola, he came from that background. You know, he came from the Sicilian background, so he knew about it a little.
Yeah.
But you know, and then Goodfellas was all based off Henry Hill.
A lot of the guys who worked on The Sopranos grew up knowing gangsters and mobsters and that life. But listen, we're out of time. This went so fast. And I want to tell people real quick, you do have a YouTube channel, right? For
Yeah,
people who
my
wanna...
YouTube, Seth Ferranti's Outlaw Films.
There you go.
You can subscribe on YouTube. I got a Substack where I do a lot of videos, writing stuff. You can subscribe to that. And then, you know, I got books you can listen to on Audible.
Just go to his
order
website.
on Amazon.
Go to his website, Convict.com. Just go to his website. Listen, thank you so much for taking the ride from Jersey. And like I said, it's going to take you a lot faster to get home than to get here. I so appreciate it. My door's always open. You want to come, promote, talk about something. I want to thank everyone for watching Tea Time. I'll see you next week. Remember, tell everyone you love them. Ciao.